We're on a security patrol down the back streets of Melbourne, looking out for the signs of crime.
So we're doing a general patrol today, just checking our fence line.
Grant's company has 7 cars. Each can do hundreds of kilometres a day. This one is zero emissions, and it's not an EV. Instead, it's powered by hydrogen.
Within a few days, we knew this was the vehicle for us to move our fleet beyond fuel.
Why didn't you go for an EV?
EVs we trialled, so we trialled a few EVs, and we need to be able to refuel at a moment's notice and be able to have a car on the road within minutes. If we had to plug in and go down the lines of recharging a car, we're looking at 8 hours off the road.
Instead, Grant's workers take their cars down to this refuelling station that's owned by Toyota.
Today you're only doing a half a refuel, so maybe won't be 5 minutes, a little bit shorter.
The hydrogen comes out as a sub-zero gas. It is made here on site using solar as well as power from the grid and water.
It goes through an electrolysis process, which in turn generates hydrogen and separates the oxygen, and then we store and dispense the hydrogen.
The gas powers the car's fuel cell, which generates electricity that drives the car. Just like an EV, there is no tailpipe on this car. Toyota says that all that's emitted is water vapour, which comes out somewhere under here, and apparently is so clean you could water the garden with it.
And Dr. Carl and others in the past have actually drunk the water itself. It's probably not recommended, but you can do it.
Despite their advantages, hydrogen cars are not taking over. There are fewer than 100 on Australian roads. Most of them are the Mirai. And the early adopters only have about a dozen places nationally to fill up their cars.
The refuelling infrastructure is limited. It's growing, but it's limited. So of course we can't introduce a car to market that can't refuel.
Energy economists believe the real issue that is holding back these cars is the price of hydrogen.
To get it down to a level where it starts to compete with battery electric vehicles, you do need to push it down to around $2 per kilogram of hydrogen. To get hydrogen at $2 per kilo, you need to be able to make electricity to make the hydrogen really, really, really cheap. And the thing is that when electricity gets really cheap, it becomes even cheaper to run your electric car.
And she says that installing fuel stations doesn't boost uptake.
If you look at California, for example, they've spent $1 billion since 2008 subsidising refuelling stations. They've got 55 refuelling stations across the state, and they have a total fleet size in the US of around 18,000 hydrogen vehicles. And so if you're talking about governments subsidising refuelling stations, they really need to think about where's the hydrogen going to get used, because a lot of that general infrastructure may well end up as a stranded asset.
Just 6 hydrogen cars were sold into the Australian market last year. That compares to 87,000 electric cars. Toyota is trailing behind when it comes to EVs. It's only introducing its first one in Australia this year. The company, which also sells a lot of hybrids, maintains that all sorts of cars will be needed to bring down emissions, although its bet on hydrogen isn't even working out in Japan.
The uptake of fuel cell vehicles in Japan has not been as high as the uptake of battery electric vehicles. There are only 420 fuel cell cars sold in Japan last year, and that's in a market of more than 7 million vehicles.
Energy economists do agree that hydrogen cars make more sense in niche sectors where recharging time costs money, like taxi fleets and security patrols. Currently, Grant is leasing 3 hydrogen cars off Toyota at a cost of $25,000 each a year. This includes all the gas he wants, servicing, rego and insurance.
It's basically a one-stop package for us that we get away with $25,000 per car.
And does that work out on what you were paying on petrol?
It's even cheaper for us. We would have been spending $25,000 a year per car on fuel alone.
Toyota admits its leasing package isn't a moneymaker, but as long as it's on offer, Grant is happy and he hopes to have an entire fleet of these cars by 2025.